Hello and welcome to 50 Phrasal Verbs for the Cambridge English First FCE examination by My British English Coach. My name is Chloe Holgate. Okay, so the first phrasal verb that we're going to learn is ask around, and this phrasal verb comes from the verb ask, and it means to ask several people for information or advice. And an example is I asked around, but nobody had seen him for days. Okay, so if you ask around, it means you are asking many different people for the same information or for advice on something. Okay, and this is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb. Okay, so that means that the verb and the particle cannot be separated. And it is also an intransitive phrasal verb. Okay. Our next phrasal verb is ask somebody out. Okay, this is another phrasal verb from the verb ask, and it means to invite somebody on a date. Okay. An example of this is Brian asked Judy out to dinner and a movie. Okay, so as you might notice in this example, this phrasal verb is separable. Okay, so the verb and the particle can be separated. As you can see in the example, Brian asked Judy out. Okay. This phrasal verb is also transitive. Okay, it does not work without the object. Okay, our next phrasal verb is back somebody up. This is a phrasal verb from the verb back. Okay, and the meaning is to support somebody. An example is, my wife backed me up in my decision to quit my job. So if you back somebody up, you support them in whatever they decide. This is an example of a separable phrasal verb, as you can see in the example. My wife backed me up. Okay, we could say, I backed him up, or she backed me up. Okay. This phrasal verb is also transitive, so it does not work unless it has an object. Our next phrasal verb is blow up. And this is a phrasal verb from the verb blow, and the meaning is to explode. Okay. So an example of this is, the boiler blew up and ruined the whole house. Okay, so here I've used the verb in the past simple. The boiler blew up and ruined the whole house. So the boiler exploded and ruined the whole house. This is a separable phrasal verb and also transitive. Okay, so we could say, the man blew the car engine up. Okay, so blow up means to explode. Our next phrasal verb is bring up, and this is a phrasal verb from the verb bring. And to bring somebody up means to look after a child until he or she is an adult. For example, he was brought up in Manchester. This phrasal verb is separable. For example, my parents brought me and my sisters up in England. It is also transitive. Okay, so bring up means to look after a child until he or she is an adult. Our next phrasal verb is call off, and this is a phrasal verb from the verb call, and it means to cancel something. For example, the match was called off because of the rain. This phrasal verb is separable. For example, the singer called the concert off because she was ill. It's also transitive. Our next phrasal verb is catch up with. And this is a phrasal verb from the verb catch. Catch up with. This means to reach a person who is ahead of you. You go with John. I'll catch up with you. This phrasal verb is inseparable. We cannot separate the verb from the particles. But it is transitive. It needs an object. Okay, so that's to catch up with. Our next phrasal verb is come across. And this is a phrasal verb from the verb come. And the meaning is to meet or find by chance. For example, if you come across that book, let me know. Okay, this phrasal verb is inseparable. It's also transitive. Our next phrasal verb is come down with. And this is another phrasal verb from the verb come. And to come down with something means to become sick. Okay, so it can be to become ill. For example, my sister came down with flu last weekend. My sister came down with flu last weekend. So this phrasal verb is inseparable and it's also transitive. We need to have the object come down with flu in this example. Okay, our next phrasal verb is cut down on, and this is a phrasal verb from the verb cut, and this means to reduce something. Normally something that is bad or unhealthy for us. For example, you should really cut down on smoking. Okay, so cut down means to reduce, so you should really reduce your smoking. Okay, this is an example of an inseparable phrasal verb, and it's also transitive. Okay, so that's the end of the first part. Okay, so I suggest that you have a break after learning 10 phrasal verbs. Okay, maybe revise the ones that you have learned so far in the course and then come back later and continue with the next part.